As many. The chair recognizes the member for Pinewood.
Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, good evening. I rise on behalf of the honorable, the dignified, the strong, the proud, the brave, the industrious people of Pinewood, whom I have come to love, respect, and whose credit I must work to maintain. I stand because not only have I been elected to them, but we have forged a relationship that has made us one, and we are a unique family. The win at the polls was not just simply a win of politics. It was a commitment to a relationship that was sought throughout our campaign as we made the commitment to go to every house, and by the time that we started counting the ballots in an election, we would have fulfilled that commitment and have touched base with 98% of every household in that community. And in furtherance of that commitment, right after the election, we went back into and finished those remaining streets because we made that commitment. So let me take this time and give honor to my Heavenly Father, whose mantra keeps me strong, and that is, the Lord is good, and his mercies are everlasting, and his truth endureth through all generations. That is such a solid mantra for me that the theme that we took in Pinewood was based on that, and we said we are there for the good of Pinewood. And that is what we will do. I must take this time because I am one who fully believes in heritage. I believe in reciprocity. I believe no tree grow in the woods save from the dying leaves and the carcasses of the trees that would have fallen before them. The nutrition that causes me to be where I am came from somebody I may not have even seen. But because they were there, I am here. So I must take the time to acknowledge the people who sometimes my strange ways, I ask, why do I act this way? People say it's strange, and somebody say, you know what? You're acting like your grandpa. And then I realize that a little bit of them exists in me. So not only do I thank God, I thank posthumously Bishop Henry A. Butler, my granddad, whose life lessons have stuck with me. Annie Butler, when growing up as a child, if nobody else had an encouraging word, she'd come and say, hey, Reuben, Grammy saw you, you know. Grammy proud of you. As an old man with kids, you'd be surprised to know how memories like that causes you to remember the child on the inside. It kept me humble. Because when I had opportunities to commit wrong, or because I may be bigger and stronger and could retaliate, I remember with Grammy smile. It causes me to take time in annals of our history to acknowledge people like Leonard Rahming, my granddad, who at age 96 used to be marching all the parades in Fox Hill with a flower in his mouth. He was the coolest man since dirt. And my Grammy, Doris Wims. It caused me to remember that I'm here because of the good, the bad, and indifferences that I've learned in being in the house of my father, Reverend Dr. J. Carl Rahming. I can tolerate people for being a preacher's kid long enough. You begin to realize that church ain't always sweet, and Christians ain't always kind. And it's a sacrifice to serve people who would smile and probably still stab you in the back. I learned a lot from being in a household of Reverend Dr. J. Carl Rahming and my mother, Evangeline Rahming, and I give them honor. I married a very beautiful woman in the person of Natasha Rahming, Fox Hill girl. I have 4 kids, Amber and Rasheen and Reuben and Nashawn, who has stuck with me throughout. Yeah, they had a choice. Sort of. And I thank God for that home, and I thank God for the people that gave them to me. And that is Marinette, yes, I call the real name, because it's going to be written down, Marinette Jackie Wright, and posthumously Leslie Wright. I also thank my godfather, Leon. We are shaped by a community. We are never of ourselves and by ourselves. We complain about our politicians, we complain about our police force, we complain about everything that is around us, and we fail to realize that all of those things came from us. So sometimes when you complain about one, you need to take a minute and pause and see what's your own makeup. See what's the demon on the inside. I acknowledge the ministries of St. Paul's and indeed my personal Bible study group, Emmy and all the crew. Yes, Johnny's, that's a deep story, they know what I'm talking about. And I thank God for the people who has shaped my life. In a sense, I even thank God for the PLP, without being derogatory, because if they had not been what they have been, I would not have felt the need to have stand up in this environment and take the stance. I've never been into politics, don't like to be called a politician. I like to be called Reuben. I'm comfortable in my own skin. But there are times when things are going wrong that we as a nation and as individuals must stand up and face the tiger. We must realize that when persons begin to get to the point, as stated in the speech from the throne, and power becomes something that people feel that they must worship instead of principles, then we need to change the paradigm. Because power should always be driven by principles. And so I thank them for motivating me, and indeed also our leader and our team for affording me the opportunity to be on the ticket of the party in which I stand as a part of. When I came into Pinewood, I came with the same spirit that was endowed and placed within me from those same persons in the community of Fox Hill, and years shaped around building people. And with that vein, you didn't walk into Pinewood saying, oh, here I am. We met with all the pillars in that community one at a time, and I said, listen, we're here. I'm not going to walk the street unless you're going to come with me. Show me the community. Teach me your ways. Help me to understand. And I've come to realize that Pinewood is an opportunity-drenched, soaked, full of potential community. One that if we provide truth, transparency, focus, and direction, will be a model community within the society. And with that coupled with my background and experience, we will bring out the good that is inside Pinewood. And we'll ensure that the children in Pinewood will see from among themselves the heroes that currently reside within that community. Because you cannot build a community from the outside in. You cannot motivate a country from the outside in. If people don't see people like themselves achieving things equal or better than others, you will not have the motivation nor the sustainability to bring out the greatness in your country, your community, your home. We must see ourselves in the things that we do. We must look at it and say, if my brother can do it, so can I. And we will do that in our community called Pinewood. I give thanks to the team that we would have had working with me throughout the elections, who were not just a campaign team. I told them from the beginning, if you work with me, we reign together. We work because we're building a community. We're building a community structure. We're building a community network. We're not building gods of MPs. MPs are but tools and access to government. MPs are the mechanisms that afford that your representation is properly afforded to you. We ain't your baby daddies. We ain't your mortgage and your light bill payer. We are the ones when things don't go right in the system that was constitutionally designed to protect you. We are the ones that fight for you. And I can say this because we just had a meeting last night in my community where we began to lay out the bricks and mortars. We had the first association meeting. The first thing we let them know that the F&M is not Pinewood. That was an association meeting. And we will have community meetings where no politics reside, when everybody could come in around the table and say, this is how our community will be. We will design a community that will withstand Reuben or any other person that may have a political title. I am personally sick and tired of great ventures going up in smoke simply because somebody else come from a different political persuasion and throwing away something that would have been invested. Our budget debate shows the wastage that would have happened in our country that has brought us to the level of stress and downgrades that we suffer right now. Some of it is done even by wasted talents where we damage and demotivate people who would have put energy into programs that are apolitical, but because of a new agenda and because someone would have touched it from another party, you throw it all away. I want to say that what is good should simply be good, regardless of the color. And for those opposite, when we do start to bring accountability, I must also say what is bad, if it is bad, and it needs to be removed despite of color. Because we must bring transparency and truth to whatever we do if we want this Commonwealth to be what we expect it to be. So Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am here today just to remind our people of the commitments that we have made already, that we will push forward to establish and to develop the community to a better place from which we once met it. When we read our speech from the throne, that is truly a document that is reflective of what we had aspired and we will accomplish as a government moving forward. And it is not something that should be taken lightly at all. We must go and we must focus and rebuild the values that make us so unique as a Commonwealth, that make us so unique as a Bahamian people. We would have lost that along the way. So often we would hear about people talking about the goose that laid the golden egg and how valued the tourism industry is, and it is so misplaced because they come here to see us. And if the value is in us, then it is devaluing to change us. Things like Carnival that changes who we are. It makes you wonder what makes you so unique. Your uniqueness is not just your geographical location. Your uniqueness is the way you cook, the way you act, the things you do, the way you do the things you do. And that is the greatest selling point of this country. If we seek to emulate everybody else around the world, if we seek to copy everybody else around the world, then the question is, if you are just like everybody else, what makes it worthwhile coming to see you? We must find who we are. We must elevate our heroes. We must remind the people that it is worth coming here to spend $300 a night in a room, because when you come here, you're going to hear about things Bahamian. You're going to see things Bahamian. And I hope, by God, by the time we reset, you're going to hear Bahamian music all around our towns. You see Bahamian culture growing to a new level. You see stronger investment in the things that make us unique. We'll find the unique flavors in our food, and we remind the people where it comes from: cooking, sports, entertainment. The Bahamian people is world-renowned. If we do that, we bring value back, Mr. Deputy Speaker. In Pinewood, we will seek to empower those persons that are around. We inherit as a new politician some strange things, because there are so many bad practices that have been out there that put unreasonable obligations on MPs, that you sit there and you look at your job description, then you look at what the expectations out there is, and you say, hold on, that has nothing to do with it. And at the end of the day, for $28,000, you say, listen here, at the end of the day, I got to go borrow some money like everybody else do just to pay these things. We will have to teach our communities what is the proper mandate of us as MPs, so that they would understand and know what to expect. Because disappointment is expectations not fulfilled. Because if we continue moving around, showing them and making them believe that the only place you're going to get a job is in government, well, you know what's going to end up happening? You're going to end up in problems for a false notion and false idea. We must ensure that our people understand that the government you rob and the government you broke is really your pocketbook. The money that's wasted and the job you think you're getting for overcrowded places when sending people with bad attitudes to give you bad service is a self-creating monster. So allow the government to refine itself. become lean, mean, fighting machines so it could do what it needs to do. So that we could cultivate an environment in business where you can strive. There are businesses out there that can make more money than the government could ever do. There are things inside of our young people that can produce more revenue than a so-called government job. There are things that you could do that could bring about better security for your family than sitting there looking for a sidewalk contract. We must bring out the greatness in our people because that is how we bring greatness to our commonwealth. The problem with this idea of power worship that we see around extends even down to our religious community. I touch base on that because guess what? Peter ain't better than Paul in a lot of these different ways. You find out that the most difficult persons to relinquish power are those who've been in it too long. So I must, with that tone, commend the Bahamian people for realizing that defect and resetting the clock. And I pray to our Heavenly Father that none of us catch this stay there forever-itis and this dynasty-itis as if somebody who don't have your last name don't got somebody with a brain who could come in here and make a contribution. Amen. With that, I acknowledge again the fact that I truly support when we put those term limits on our prime ministers and possibly even consider putting some time limits someplace else. Because we have gotten to this point when some persons have become so thirsty for power that they begin to look at themselves as God. And when they begin to look at themselves as God, now how you spend my money don't matter. Sit small. When you look at yourself as God, traditions begin to fall away, and you find yourself not wanting to come down to cut a cake because you got to finish your sermon. When you lose perspective simply because at the end of the day, when we lose focus, that this is about the people, for the people, and by the people, and if you don't respect the people, you'll someday realize that you're one of the people. A job of a good MP is to take the opportunity while you are in the job to build an environment conducive for you when you get out of the job. You fix the road so when you get back into your Toyota, you don't run into potholes. You make the business system smoother so when you go back to your regular job, you don't have to wait 6 months for a business license. You make the hospital better so that when you end up there and you don't have your special passport and your blue plate, that you can get proper service. You pave a way so that the day comes when you're there, you can get best service. That brings me to something that is very dear to me. Because within our community in Pinewood, we have community homes that exist there right now. We have 2 of them. One is the A&A Comfort Care. The other one is the Twilight Home for the elderly. And I would like to speak to the heart and the soul of our people. We need to understand something. I don't mind if you're selfish, you know. Just be smart with it. Because if you're selfish, fix the road if only for your own self. If you're selfish, fix the hospital if only for you. You don't got to like nobody else. Just fix the hospital because you're going to end up there one time. If you only care about yourself, treat your elderlies right. You know why? Because one day, you can get old. You see, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I don't have to love you to treat you right. I don't have to love you to want to come and stop crime at your door. I don't have to love you when a hurricane comes to ensure that the roofs are fixed for people who you know may be F&Ms. Or vice versa, PLPs, of an opposite political persuasion. I should do it simply because when the hurricane comes, it ain't gonna know no color. And if my roof can knock off, I would like to know that I'm on a reasonable, fair list, and when my time to come, they ain't gonna leapfrog over me because they realize that he was an MP for Pinewood, and you know, at the end of the day, he's an F&M. It's about fair play. The conscience of the nation, we're here speaking about the debate of finances. But the character of the nation is reflected in its actions towards its widows, its orphans, the poor, the elderly, the disabled, and its culture. So at the end of the day, while those who are appropriately skilled speaks to numbers, which are very important, we must also add the spirit and the character of it. Because we can be the wealthiest of nations, and if we disregard the least among us, not only are we fools, but we are heartless people. So I would like to see, despite this not necessarily being our budget, and as we go further, that there are greater consideration offered to those who are least fortunate, as expressed in our speech from the throne. That greater emphasis will be placed on those who are of greater need. There are too many times that we look upon Bahamian people as beggars when they come for social assistance. Let me remind you, they contribute to the consolidated fund. They are protected by the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. So when they come to get a government assistance that by law they qualified for, they should be treated with respect and not as if they're given some kind of favor. I am not one who believes in that level of entitlement that I see in some countries to get to the point where a person won't have 50 kids because they're getting paid so much for the kids. It causes that kind of negative response. But we are here to represent the interests of the people. And although this may seem widespread, I am specifically also speaking to what I am witnessing in my community called Pinewood. And this will stop because it is my job, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to ensure that whatever is in these documents that speak to whatever they need, it is my job to ensure that they have access to it. It is not my job to lead them like a horse to water to drink. But if they go to the trough and the trough is empty, it is my job to find out why the tap ain't running. In our community, there will be a shift. I grew up realizing from my grandparents that the greatest power a man has is his own personal fortitude. You could change the world. Everybody else could jump on later. Have the commitment, Mr. Deputy, to your personal conviction. Be who you are. And teach people how to respect you, or they will treat you however they want. In our community, when I realized the greatness in our community, and as every day I'm coming to understand better the intricacies of governance, there are things that we had committed on the campaign trail that we will put in place. Because I believe in the biblical narrative that was in the book of Genesis chapter 11 that spoke about the Tower of Babel. They hear so much about the negative side of it, about the language being confounded, that they miss the big message. When you have a person or people moving in one direction, one language, one speech, they thinking the same, God himself said there is nothing they imagine to do. Not even what's there. Ain't nothing they can rig up that they cannot accomplish. Despite the dire straits of this country, if we work together in truth and unity, we can overcome any obstacle. We could change the opinion of Moody. We could change the mood of the tourists. We can do whatever we need to do if we make up a collective order that as a nation, this is what we stand for, this is what we will do, and this is how we will do it. In our community in Pinewood, we have made that commitment. And so with that, within the first year, we will establish the Pinewood Multi-Purpose Co-op. It's very, very simple, you know. We will combine all the skills, Mr. Deputy, that we have within our community, and we will bring them together and form them into a cluster, so that our people in the community who are struggling right now because of the big fish in this economic climate is sucking the wind out of all the opportunities that the small guy could have survived on. There are a lot of large companies right now forcing subcontractors literally to work for them, not as subcontractors, but as employees, because the job market is so unlevel. And so what's happening now, we're bringing those guys in off the street. Why are you sitting on the block and you're a three-phase electrician? Why are you sitting on this block and you're a master carpenter? When we pool them together and we form that cooperative, I would say, as for me, one of the motivations for that cooperative is it will bring greater transparency, because I told them, say, listen here, there are contracts allotted to my community that goes through. I ain't into your cronyism. Ain't nobody coming into me. When y'all get your act together, build something else, guess what? I'm going to put it there, now y'all take care of your community. Because in a cooperative, it is not politically motivated. It's one man, one vote, and there's no form of cronyism. And what will end up happening is the young man will realize that my community is not only where I live, but it's where I can make a living. And when they form themselves and they develop their skills in their community, then they will be able to compete for contracts and jobs throughout their commonwealth. And then for Pinewood, the wealth will truly be common. So we will build them and we will focus on training them to develop in these areas. It will provide an opportunity where there is a code of conduct for the young men. So you can't be breaking into Ruby's house and molesting Ruby's daughter and say you want a piece of this pie. We expect for you to act a certain way. It helped us with the apprenticeship program so that they'll be able to get the hands-on training. It will build relationship because understanding breeds tolerance. That's one of the best ways to reduce violence and crime. Every man, Mr. Deputy, has a vision. And the greatest tragedy in life is when you have a man working outside of his calling. It's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. And many of the young men that I've come across who may have been perceived as deviant, when you have a sensible conversation and you quiet the rhetoric, I don't want to hear about your boys, I don't want to hear about that, me and you talking. Sit down, what's going on with you? What's in here? You begin to find out that they had a dream that got suspended or retired. One of the greatest weapons against crime is not the guns and the cars, though they have their place. If you can get a young man or a young lady following their dreams, I guarantee you it will take their mind of any deviant activity. We will change the violent model to whatever standard it may be in my community, simply because we will get people working so diligently on their dreams because of what had been stated by this administration in the speech from the throne. We will position Pinewood to be ready like a grower waiting for each fruit to come in its season for the things that have been listed in that speech from the throne. When the skills bank would have come out nationally, we would have a skills bank and directory already ready in Pinewood. When they began to jumpstart and the Fresh Start program, our young people are already drafting their business plans and their ideas because we're going to get ready. Because the job of the MP is to be a pimp. And let me qualify with that pimp is, see, you all think pimp is that stuff on the side of the road. I'm talking to pimp to say, you know what? Something coming. Get ready, my community, get ready, because you know what happening? All these other people can get their people in, so Pinewood, get ready. It is my job to look at every policy and say, you know what's happening? They're going to make business license easier. We're going to make this happen. Get your idea going. You know what happened? There's going to be a jumpstart program. So that idea you had, get ready. I'm going to snitch to my people so much, you all may decide to really keep me out and block me out because my job is to ensure that what is best for them, that they are ready for it. Yes. We would not hide no good thing from the people in our community. So there are some things that we'll need to do. So Pinewood will be business ready. And it's happening right now. And I'm so amazed at the level and the quality and the skills that I see that is happening right now. So when we are developing our skills bank, we are designing our apprenticeship program, we are working our athletics program. The program that we will establish in Pinewood, and we will push for it starting this summer, is whatever Olympic activity out there that we can duplicate in this area, in Pinewood, we will. If Jamaica could have a board sled team, the Bahamas could realize we could run fast. What other Olympic sports we have not tapped into yet? Because there's taboo. What can stop us from excelling in archery? What could stop us in being even better in gymnastics and other things? In my community, there are some of the best boxers and trainers and some of the best boxers. Thriller Millett is in our community. Quincy Pratt sits right there. He lives in Pinewood. In our community are some of the best artisans. Isaiah Taylor from Bahama is in my community. Amen. When we build our community and our parks, they will be strategically designed to introduce our children at an early age to a multiplicity of sports and disciplines. And it's so much so that we will introduce them to the way our ma used to do it. Because there are some people who didn't know they liked to play the piano until Ma said them go play that piano. And today they realized that they had a competency, they had an ability, they had an affinity for something. We must introduce our children to things. These benefit us health-wise and otherwise, because right now the greatest entertainment is to be on your phone and working your thumbs. And now we're suffering from diabetes and other health ailments because children don't play like they used to play. One of the greatest motivations during the campaign trail had been, man, I met 3 girls, and I used that as a statistical norm. We said, Mr. Rahming, are you going to do something for girls in basketball? And after I heard that a 3rd time, I went to my people and said, you know something, that has to be a need. They say only 3 girls. I say, look at the statistical norm of that. If you met 3 young girls in different streets in different areas who didn't know each other and they raised a concern, statistically, that has to be an interest that we need to explore. Our young girls want to do more, so we'll do that. One of the things that was said, Mr. Deputy, in the speech from the throne, and I stand wholeheartedly with that, is that public safety is an immutable right. So therefore, as it relates to security in Pinewood, we will step forward and we will maximize the full benefit, not only in this budget, but the love and concern of our Minister of National Security, and bring to bear all aspects of what we can as a community, community crime watches, community organization, sporting activity, relationship bonding, and we will make a difference as it relates to the perception of crime in our community. We have to change the mindset of our people. Those children who commit a crime, parents must own up. The Word of God says, by your fruits you should know them. So if your child acts a certain way, and I call you mango, don't call me wrong if your child is a mango. That means you're a mango tree. If your child is a deviant, then me and you need to have a conversation, because somewhere along the line, you're representing something to your child. We will have hard-based structures that will allow us to engage parents properly, so that we can properly acclimatize our kids and socialize our children so that they can be better citizens and better fit within their individual communities. Because right now, it's amazing that we worry with the guys with the guns on the street. And I think it was just last year, we had a child with a gun that came to school, right? Had a gun in his bag. But these practices start early. So we will put special emphasis on our young kids and be able to acclimatize them by bringing 12 Bahamas Scout groups. We'll be bringing service clubs into the community. We'll have so many varieties in that community that there will always be options for persons to be able to do things that will help them develop and be able to serve each other much, much better. Right now, one of the things that concern me, Mr. Deputy, is that the environment many times is not a reflection truly of what goes on in our society. Look at Bay Street. Many times on Bay Street, you walk down here and to be quite honest, it looks like a flea market. The level of filth, the level of dirt. The same thing you see happen in too many in our communities, notwithstanding the hurricanes. Cleanliness is a major issue. So ours would have been done in other communities that I would have worked for before being in this place. We will institute in our community an annual spring cleaning. That annual spring cleaning is where we will create a mechanism for you to get everything out. But we will not enable you by coming to you every day, toting your garbage, emptying your garbage man. There are people who got that job. And you must be accountable for your own waste. We will ensure that after the annual spring cleaning that we would have done, that we will ensure too that those persons who have that deviant lifestyle of dropping those wrecked cars and things that deface their community, whatever gravity needs to be brought to address that situation, let it happen. Because without penalty, people will continue to do what they need to do. They need to understand that your house is your greatest investment. And whatever happens in your community affects the value of your home and your investment. So you cannot be living in a palatial house and your neighbor living in a junkyard and you expect your neighborhood to be better. It must be a collective responsibility for all to be able to address the cleanliness of their neighborhoods. We will re-engage our parks and bring them to some state of usability and normalcy so our children can have an environment that is conducive to proper sports, fun, and the learning that extends from it. There are 2 major items that I want to draw nay 3 about our community. Pinewood is renowned for the flooding. And it amazes me how for so long these matters have not gotten sufficient traction in terms of a solution. It is difficult because this debate and this budget is not this government's wholehearted budget. But this MP has made the commitment and has already begun to forward recommendations and documentations to ensure that that matter is addressed. And I would say, without any regard for personal reputation or otherwise, whatever it takes that I must do, no matter how high or low that I must go, that matter must be resolved. There are too many persons who are traumatized by the annual expectations of rains and flooding in that area. And if we believe what we said about Genesis and the Tower of Babel, there is no problem that cannot be fixed if we really go at it. Fixing the flooding in my area is not just a matter of simple flooding. I've listened to us investing almost $30 million in Carnival, and the statement was, we didn't expect a return in investment. Well, then why you can't invest $10 million then and fix a problem in Pinewood whose return will yield tens of millions in value? Can I qualify that? If you fix the flooding problem, then the next time somebody looks for a house for sale in Pinewood and see a $120,000 4-bedroom house, that's a deal. Then see Pinewood and say, next. If we address the flooding problem in Pinewood, the value and the equity in houses without anything being done will rise. And calculate that over the thousands of houses in the community. The environment of the community will change. I want to say to this house that that is one of the greatest investments of public funds that we can ever make for a single community by addressing such a need. Our community must have that matter addressed. And we must do it as a matter of urgency. I want to make the report that documentation has already been submitted, notwithstanding not having the current ability to go into the major works, that we review all current plans that exist. And in the meantime, there have been recommendations put forward for the remediation of all existing wells and possibly a few other ones to allow us that while we're in this rainy season, that we can properly bring some degree of comfort to our people right now. Because the wells have not been properly addressed and they have not been cleaned and they need to be serviceable. We are in the hurricane season and we are indeed in the rainy season. So that must be done. With that vein, we will also have our own community disaster and hurricane relief structure. It is strange to me that when things need to be done in the community, many times we fail to look around to the resources within the community. And in our surveys of the community, we found that there exists sufficient skill set to be able to afford us to have within the community, for the benefit of the community, persons who can actually service, manage, and deliver the services that are actually needed to not only mitigate some of the issues with the flooding, but also to prepare our people to be one of the first responders in the event of a hurricane and a disaster. There is another vexing issue that I want to also address and make known. And this is one of those matters that is grievous. There is in our communities, and I think the side opposite would know of this as well, and I would acknowledge what seemed to be from the documentation I have that some work has been started on that with the Nassau Village Seabreeze Property Owners Association. I think for the mind of the public, they will probably remember it from the time when the church got knocked down. Yes, this tied into basically that, where there were issues relating to the land title between the Arak homes and the persons who has houses in that area. Not to disparage anybody or to ruffle any feathers. There had been represented documentations from meetings that was last had in April 2017, just before the election that would have caused our community to have reason to believe that a solution was nigh at hand. And if that is the case, I have been requested to at all and by any means necessary to seek how truthful this great news actually is. So wherever it stands and however it goes, it is very, very imperative that whatever deal that would have been set on the table for land swapping according to what had been presented here, that we pursue that, because those persons in polling division number 11 and those persons impacted in Seabreeze and Nassau Village and those homeowners who would have paid for their home, these aren't squatters, these aren't persons who went and they followed the process, that we do whatever we can as a government. And indeed, if necessary from the current opposition perspective, it does not matter. Let's just get this done. We need to ensure that these people have peace of mind. One of the greatest causes of illness, fatigue, frustration, suicide is stress. And we must be sympathetic to the plight of people who, when they look back and said, I did all the right things, I followed all the procedure, and at the end of the day, this happens to me. Now I'm paying for a house twice. Why I have to go through this twice? All the systems seem to fail. Somewhere along the line, we must either continue to step up, should this be so that the former administration was beginning to look at this, and we must bring this to a conclusion. Because the commitment, from what I understand here, that there should have been, by now, a few weeks ago, some positive communication to these homeowners as it relates to the plight of their land. So the commitment is we will continue to follow through with this, and we'll ensure that this matter is properly addressed speedily. I want to take the time to acknowledge to our government that our people, especially in the Pinewood constituency, is so elated by some of the things that have been mentioned in the speech from the throne. So many of our single mothers can't wait for the opportunity to get access to the rent-to-own program. That's one of the things I'm pimping off every day, telling them, get ready, get ready, get ready, because it's coming. Mr. Deputy, this is very, very critical, because we know the mortgage regime in our country right now has not been an easy hurdle for people to overcome. And this is indeed very, very critical for families right now who are not only renting, but who find themselves not at the end of the day having any reasonable investment or return for all the years that they've been spending renting in their communities. So we're glad about that. With my background in transportation, I've been also asked to advise on a few things, because we had announced in our speech from the throne, in which I support, that there would be considerations as relate to the ownership of taxi plate and those persons who would have been leasing taxi plates. I think that is good, and I trust my government to be fair in their processes, and I applaud that. But I must also manage them that there are other franchises that are also disenfranchised. That we should not only stop there, but let's consider our best effort to level the whole playing field. In my former incarnation, I have also always expressed that we don't necessarily have to disenfranchise somebody to franchise somebody else, but by God, we must do something. Because we need to ensure that persons have equity and they have full benefit of the labor and whatever is afforded to them under the laws of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. I must also interject a recommendation. There have always been, and particularly as it relates to the public service vehicles, beforehand 2 tiers of exemptions, and now there's one on new vehicles. Realistically, one of the best shot in the arms that we can do is to revisit the exemptions as well on public service vehicles and allow exemptions with conditions to be applied to vehicles that reach to the age of 10 years with conditions. That may seem to the persons who are not totally familiar with the industry, 10 years is a long thing. But I guarantee you, you can find vehicles of suitable quality for 10 years, you can get additional 15 years out of. And for the price of one of these new buses, somebody can get on their feet with 3. And so we need to look at, especially in this area and business development, where we can really give people an opportunity where they can really capitalize and expand their livelihood. I believe this is good because I know the outcome and the outcome of the work of this government will bring prosperity back to this country. I am confident of that. I have no doubt in that. Given time, dedication, the commitment of the Bahamian people, and sticking to our commitments, there will be a turnaround in our tourism industry and all of our businesses in this country, because this is the work we are here to do. So in the meantime, can we make provisions to afford our people to get ready and brace themselves for the change? So this is indeed very, very important to us. Mr. Deputy, my last point that I want to state is something I said on the campaign trail when motivating our people to stop looking for handout and find the greatness within themselves. And that is, I began to let them know and speak about certain things, why it is so important and why the Free National Movement at that time was stressing the importance of business development. And I began to say something to them that I would like to say to the public. I remember when the Bahama incident came up and this matter came up, that we did what we did in the matter of national security. I don't know if some people said that. But there is something to me that qualifies as a matter of national security, and that is small business development. To all of my fellow Bahamians out there that wake up in the morning with a dream, a crazy idea, something they think may not work, we need to get Bahamians' ideas and concepts off the shelf and into reality as much as possible. Because it is a matter of national security. If the rate of foreign business growth continue or begin to outpace the rate of Bahamian business development, our economy will be lost. If the rate of foreign business growth by volume and size, if they continue to be the largest of entities within our country, our society is lost. You can have Parliament as much as you want if you don't own the economy of your country. If the economy of your country does not represent the demographic of your people, then we would have lost our Bahamas. That is a matter of national security. So I encourage us to stand strong in our commitment to small business development. Give them the best opportunity to not only succeed, but even fail. Some of the best opportunities in the world happen not after the first failure, second failure, third failure, but by the time that fella got around to his 9th or 10th, or like WD-40. It's called WD-40 because it was on the 40th time he got the formula right. No, Formula 1 to 39 didn't work. And the Formula 40 got it right and is making money now. So don't judge our people on the failure. Encourage their fortitude. Tell them to be like a phoenix and rise at every occasion, because we are counting not only on the government, we are counting on our children, the dreams of the Bahamian people to get up, do better, be better. Stop asking and start doing. And I will borrow from John F. Kennedy. Don't just ask what the government could do for you, but show them what you're ready to do for your country. This land is my land. This land is your land. This land is a commonwealth of the Bahamas. And by the grace and help of God, the wealth under this administration will be made more common. So our Bahamian people, to my people in Pinewood, this is not an easy road, but it's coming. This is not our budget. All the things you think you want to see will not come, but there's no excuse why you should not get ready, because your change is happening now under the minister-led Free National Movement government of the Bahamas. Mr. Deputy, thank you, and God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Pinewood.